Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and thanks for checking out today's video. Much appreciated. And you know, we're getting towards the mid part of May, and you know what that means? That means that deep cranking season is right around the corner. And I'm going to give you guys some really good tips and advice I learned from some of the best deep crankers back on the East Coast, North Carolina. You know, guys like Gerald Bad Eye Beck, Jeff Coble, a lot of the old legends in the cranking game. And I'm going to give you guys some good juice on that. I think it's going to add up to some really quality fish for you guys coming up over the next month. A couple quick things, guys. Just wanted to remind you, we have our View Product Shopping tab up and going again on the channel. If you'd like to check that out, it's just 30 products I put in there. You guys might be interested as far as from our merchandise list. And also, please check out our summer Fish the Moment Lake Map breakdowns. We got the summer maps out on the website. If we have a map that's not what you're looking for, or lake that's not what you're looking for, you can book a virtual lesson with us and we can go over any lake in the country regardless how big or little it is. So much appreciated. Okay guys, I believe it or not, you guys, I know a lot of you old guys, or a lot of you guys out think I'm a dinosaur and behind the times and anti-tech, but I really got in on the offshore game. I was one of the early people that did. I mean, from what I learned from some of these experts, I was able to win a lot of tournaments here locally in Oklahoma and Missouri, deep cranking back in the late 80s and early 90s. This was before GPS. This was before any mapping, before anything other than flashers. It was just triangulation, paper maps, and flashers. A lot of idling time, a lot of just fishing time. And I got really good at fishing offshore and fishing deep with these techniques because not many people were doing it. And so I want to share with you guys some of the things I learned that are still true today as far as cranking and everything, as far as just some ins and out of the crankbait itself and sort of some things what to look for here. So anyway, deep cranking, guys, there's a lot of different deep crankbaits out there. This is one of my favorites. This is the Megabass Deep 6 here. And one of my all-time favorites is the old Norman DD22. These are probably my two favorite deep diving crankbaits. Also, guys, I'll put the Baitworks link in the description. They got every deep crankbait you're looking for there. If you guys want to use that link, that's pretty much appreciated there. So the main thing, guys, is the difference in the deep diving crankbaits. It has to do with the profile, has to do with the lip design, and it has to do with the wobble. Now, I'm here to say one of the things that I can tell you about deep diving cranking is that there's not a time when one specific deep diving crankbait will just dominate over anything else all the time. It's like the bass, the mood and the personality of the bass determine the specific crankbait that they like. I mean, I've had times on the lake where they don't want anything except the DD22. I've had times when I can't get a bite anything except the Deep 6. I've had times when I couldn't get anything other than a DB3. I mean, there's a lot of different deep crankbaits that I use. I use about every one on the market out there. And a lot of it is just figuring out what is going to fire those deeper fish up, especially if they're schooled up. So one of the first pieces of advice I'm going to give you guys, what I learned, is you got to have a variety of different wobbles and profiles out there. So let me show you a couple different things here, what I'm talking about. Say for example, get this one out here. Here's another one of my all-time favorites here. This is that fat-free shad. Now, you can see the fat-free shad, it's sort of almost like a deep dive and flat side. And then you've got like the DD22 that's rounded. And then you've got the Megabass Deep 6 that's sort of like a tuna body, a little bit out there. So here's a couple things that I found to sort of give you a starting point as far as what to choose. For me, one of the best baits that I found is like when you first pull up on a spot, like a drop off or a brush pile or something out there, and the fish haven't seen anything. I catch more fish like on this Megabass DD22 than almost anything. It's a large body crankbait. It pulls a lot. It bites you all the way back to the boat. And there's something about those bigger aggressive fish that really like it. After those fish get pressured a little bit, maybe after catching 3 or 4 of them, sometimes I'll go to the flat side, you know, like the fat-free shad here and catch them. And then I'll mop it up with the Megabass Deep 6, which is more of a tight wobbler. There's just something about it. It comes in a little bit more of a wide color variation, and it catches a lot of those fish better that are accustomed to seeing bait. So those are 3 of my favorite crankbaits with that. So I think it's important, like I said, that you have to rotate through those, because one of the things you're going to find out about deep or offshore deep cranking is that the fish get conditioned to the bait, pretty easy. After you've made multiple passes through an area, came at it with multiple presentations. I can't tell you how many times that I've thought I've exhausted an area, and I'll come back through it with a different crankbait and keep catching them on there. So that's one of the main things that you have to do, is you have to keep 5-6 different profiles of crankbaits on the deck there. Along with that, guys, is the color patterns that you use. I mean, color patterns. What are you doing there?
I don't want Owen to tickle me.
You don't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have a drink, please?
They're out there playing on the trampoline.
Can I have a drink?
Yeah, you can have a drink. Another thing out there is the color patterns, guys. Color patterns are really critical as far as, deep cranking goes. And by far, the color pattern that I prefer right off the bat more than anything else is some type of a fairly bright color. I mean, I like something that stands out, something that has some chartreuse on it like that, sort of a perch pattern. There's something about when I fire that perch pattern in there right off the bat, it's going to catch the more aggressive fish, especially if the water clarity is sort of in that 2 to 4 foot range. Really good right off the bat. And then after the brighter perch patterns, or the brighter perch patterns work out, that's when I'll go with more of a translucent, some type of a perch or shad pattern that's got like a see-through. Overall, I seem to do better on more of a perch pattern than I do a shad pattern when it comes to deep cranking. I'm not sure what that is. I think a lot of it maybe has to do with the time of year, because for me, the best time of year to deep crank is May and June. One of the things that you're going to find out, we'll get more into the bait here in a second, but one of the things you're going to find out about deep cranking, guys, is there's a window of time when deep cranking excels. And usually what happens is, if you have a lake that has much offshore structure on it and is conducive to deep cranking, once those fish start spawning and that water temperature starts reaching close to 70 degrees, those fish will get on the bottom in anywhere between 8 to 20 foot of depth, depending upon the lake that you're fishing, and they bite a deep diving crankbait. And the big ones do. This is the one of the time of years that you catch the biggest bags. Some of the biggest bags of fish I've ever caught in my life have been in late May and June, deep cranking. And what happens is the fish make another personality change towards the end of June, and they start getting off a big crankbait. That's when they start getting more on like a football head jig or like a big worm or something like that. So for me, it's like the deep crankbait bite is most of the time from mid-May to mid-June. That's when it's the best. And when it's on, it's hard to beat as far as that goes. Okay, a couple other things here. We talked about colors. We talked about wobbles and profiles. Let's talk about retrieve, how you need to retrieve at speed or retrieve. One of the things those old experts like Gerald Beck and Coble taught me is, like, when you make a cast out there with your crankbait, point that rod tip straight at the bait, just like this. Don't hold it off to the angle, to the side where your rod's like that. Cast it straight in front of that, and keep reeling straight like that. Every one of these experts agreed with that. It's like when you have that bait coming in directly like that, it not only allows the bait to react better because you don't have the stretch on it, but they swear that you don't lose near as many fish. And I found that to be true a little bit. One of the things you got to realize is, most of the time when you're deep cranking, a lot of guys are using a little softer rod. And when you have like a 5 or 6 pound bass come up like on a DD22 and just clamp on it hard, a lot of times when you set the hook with a soft rod, you're not doing anything. You're not moving those hooks any at all. You're just like, they're holding on to it, and you're not doing anything, and they can just open their mouth like that and the crankbait comes out of their mouth. But if you have that rod pointed straight at it, it takes away a lot of that forgiveness of the rod, and you've got nothing but just whatever line stretches there with that. So that's a big part of it. Another thing is speed or retrieve. One of the things you're going to find out about deep cranking is the bigger fish like a faster stop and go retrieve. I found very few situations where those fish want some type of a slow to medium steady retrieve. You're going to do a lot better if you up your retrieve. So I'll throw it out there. make the longest casts as possible because you want to get that bait down, and just, you know, real fast, stop, real fast like that, stop. And I do a hard stop and go retrieve, and it just allows me to trigger a lot more strikes. Rod wise and everything like that, you need some type of a long rod. My preferred cranking rod is that Mega Bass Launcher, which is 7 foot 11 inches long. It's got sort of a, I would consider it a medium action tip on it. The long rod serves a couple different purposes. It allows you to make a longer cast, allows you to manipulate the bait a little bit better, and it allows you to take up a lot more line when you do set the hook, and it just gives you a fighting advantage. So I like to go, I consider 7 foot short for deep diving crankbait. I like at least a 7.5 foot rod. And then I'll couple that up with anywhere between 10 to 20 pound test Seaguar and Vizex line, depending upon how deep I want the bait to go. So that's some of the things that I learned from those guys more than anything is, you know, point your rod tip straight at the bait, have a wide variety of different, you know, crankbait profiles and sizes, have a variety of different colors on there, and just stay on those areas where those fish move after spawning. And most of the time they're on some type of a ledge. If you're on a ledge lake, other times of year, it's all about point fishing. So, you know, secondary main lake points, that's just where those fish go after they get done spawning. So it's some of the, like I said, some of the best days of fishing I've had, some of the most memorable days of fishing I've ever had have come deep cranking May and June. So give it a try, guys. You know, once you get on it, you'll get addicted to it. And you don't have to have fancy stuff to do it, guys. You can, like I said, you can do it with just a flasher and a paper map. Just find you a couple, start running some main lake and secondary points. Try what I told you here, and you'll get some bites doing it. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see y'all later.